establishing new effective and efficient mechanisms for a nation getting their land back or the resolution of disputes outside of the courts.
Tonight, a Senate committee is looking into how,
with the business leaders of this province,
the Manitoba government is providing millions towards helping end homelessness in the province.
Inuit art is just kicking, and I'm just blown away that I get to be part of it with all these other amazing artists.
And this year's Sobey Art Award finalists have been announced. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Manitoba NDP MP Tuesday. The First Nation in northern Manitoba has taken the federal government to court over a lack of safe drinking water. Along with Shamattawa, over 50 First Nations have signed on to a class action suit, which is currently being heard in federal court. The legal action is seeking $1.1 billion in damages.
Speaker, we're now over 1,300 days since the Liberals promised to end boiled water advisories, but instead of doing that, the Liberals are fighting First Nations in court as we speak. Doing their best Stephen Harper impression, they are carrying on years of colonialism and denying First Nations the right to clean drinking water. Shamattawa, the lead plaintiff, is taking on Canada, one of the richest countries in the world, whose Prime Minister travels the world pretending to be a leader in human rights, all the while denying Shamattawa clean water. When will this government stop fighting Shamattawa, Tatasqueyak, and 58 First Nations and deliver clean drinking water?
The Honourable
with First Nations, and we're going to continue till we get the job done. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, that member opposite has an opportunity to help make sure we never return to the situation that we found ourselves in 2015 with Bill C-61 in committee nearing study. I hope that we'll see a safe passage of that legislation through this House so that no First Nations person ever lives without clean water again.
The pleas of the people in Fort Chipewyan, Alberta, for the government to take action cleaning up contamination in their community have reached the ears of Federal Transport Minister Anita Anand. The community of about 1,200 on the tip of Lake Atson has that story.
It's pretty scary stuff.
At the waterfront she's known since childhood, April Mercredi paints a disturbing picture of life in Fort Chipewyan, Alberta.
To drink the water, to eat the fish, knowing that it's killing us, but yet we still got to do it because we don't have a choice. And we don't want to move. Where are we going to go?
Local leaders are asking people to avoid fishing and swimming off the federally owned dock because of contamination. Drinking water is sourced nearby. The town says it just recently learned of the issue 7 years after the presence of potentially carcinogenic chemicals was confirmed to the new transport minister about that today.
My understanding is that the severe health risks that we're seeing now were not evident at that time. But of course, having been in the role for just 2 weeks, I want to stress that on the go forward, I take this issue very seriously.
The site is listed as a medium priority on a federal database. Locals maintain their health is being compromised.
I live in this community. I see the people dying of rare cancers.
An Alberta government report released a decade ago did confirm higher rates of 3 kinds of cancer.
Come and see our situation and live it and drink the water. When they come to our meetings, they bring in the bottled water. Like, why do they do that?
Fort Chipewyan is downstream from the oil sands, another factor that stokes suspicion, especially after multiple tailings pond spills in northern Alberta.
The government always tries to hide everything. I have to say that, I'm sorry.
They are calling for their drinking water intake to be moved and the dock area cleaned up and dredged. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Fort Chipewyan, Alberta.
Meanwhile, NDP MP Lori Idlut asked about the issue in question period on Tuesday. Fort Chipewyan has dealt with higher rates of cancer for years. And the NDP says the federal government knew of this as far back as 2017 when a report identified the contamination.
The Liberals are actively refusing reconciliation and evading their obligations required in the honor of the Crown. This government, for 7 years, they covered it up. Rightfully, families are now worried about their children's health and whether they will lose them to cancer. When will this government uphold the honor of the Crown and work with First Nations to ensure their health and safety?
Hear, hear. The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Member for raising this important point. Safety is my top priority as Minister of Transport. I hear and understand to safe and reliable connectivity that they need. I will be continuing to work with the Minister of Indigenous Services on this very important matter. Thank you.
To Manitoba now, where building on their commitment to end homelessness in 2 years, the provincial government announced $10 million towards new housing grants. The program is called the Collaborative House. The grants will cover the startup costs for new buildings or converting existing buildings into affordable housing projects. Projects will offer units at below market rates. A combination of public, private, and nonprofit resources will support the Housing Alliance Trust Fund. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs acting grant housing crisis. At a business and housing summit this morning, Premier Wab Kinew discussed his government's plan to work with business leaders to expand Manitoba's affordable housing supply.
Today, that we are providing a seed investment of $10 million to launch a new concept called a social, to go out and to use that to leverage additional capital to then go out into the community and add more housing so that we can create new rungs on the ladder that starts with us getting people off of the street and into social housing, but now we'll create those next steps into affordable and market-based housing. And with the other investments we've announced into the budget, hopefully someday, a path to homeownership.
Those facing housing insecurity. The Prairie Community Coalition and other groups rallied outside Saskatoon City Hall to urge all levels of government to provide safe, stable housing before winter rolls in. According to the Saskatoon Community Foundation, 90% of the homeless population in Saskatoon, it's organized ones. Organizer Manuel Villa Castro stressed the need for sustainable housing, urging municipal, federal, and provincial governments to step up.
And we want long-term solutions. This is a reconciliation issue as well. A week ago, all the levels of government were talking about how every child matters and how,
And turns in the case against Nathan Chasinghorse. Details on that and more after the break. Welcome back. It's like protecting inherent Indigenous rights, the right to self-determination, and addressing injustices like systemic racism. A Senate committee is currently studying how UNDRIP is being implemented. Former Minister of Justice Jody Wilson-Raybould was the key witness today. She called UNDRIP a good start, but said deeper reforms are needed to ensure its success. Wilson-Raybould gave one example.
Or the resolution of disputes outside of the courts, as well as new Indigenous institutions that are independent from the federal government, that importantly support the work of nation and government rebuilding.
A circle of Indigenous leaders recently gathered to discuss the impacts of resource extraction projects and have formed an Indigenous advisory and monitoring committee for the Trans Mountain expansion and existing pipeline. The committee will enable collaborative work and progress on advancing the calls for justice that were developed after the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women was completed.
When industries move into our territories, they do so often without the free, prior, and informed ecosystems. They impact our culture, families, lives, and rights. They bring with them an increased risk of violence and exploitation.
Now to a story we brought you last year about a Dances with Wolves actor, Nathan Lee Chasinghorse. He was accused of sexually assaulting 2 women, one of the charges against him, although he does remain in custody. With more on this, we're joined by our senior web reporter, Kathleen Martins. Kathleen, thanks for being with us. What can you tell us about the recent developments in the case of Nathan Chasinghorse?
Yeah, there's been a lot of activity late last week and early this week in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he's accused of being a sexual predator. Now, I do want to say these are simply accusations. None of these allegations have been tested in court, and he remains innocent. What's happened lately is that the Nevada Supreme Court dismissed the charges there. There's 8 of them against Mr. Chasinghorse late last week, and now the federal government in the U.S., which those charges were used to actually arrest. That's why there's so many questions about what's going on. That's the latest development.
Well, in a statement to APTN News from Steve Wolfson, the Clark County District Attorney, he said, while we were disappointed to learn of the Nevada Supreme Court's decision, this is only a minor setback. He did confirm his office would take the case to a new grand jury. What would that entail?
Yeah, that's right, Dennis. So Chasinghorse, but left the door open for the prosecution there to refile the charges in front of a new grand jury and seek an indictment. As you heard, the prosecutor said they are going to do that, but that was before the feds dropped their case. So right now, I've been in touch with officials, authorities arrest on at least 8 charges there of sexual assault, and as does Montana, as does Caramios, BC. So he's wanted in a number of jurisdictions. If it doesn't proceed in Las Vegas, those jurisdictions would move to arrest him and take him into custody in their communities.
Take him into custody?
That's right, and I know that's something that the alleged victims are very fearful of. They are quite worried with these developments in the United States that he may be freed, and I've been told by police and other authorities he will not be freed. He will be taken into custody by another jurisdiction.
Kathleen, appreciate you updating us on this, and we'll stay tuned to the website aptnnews.ca for any new updates. Since Chasinghorse in Las Vegas, the Clark County prosecutor filed single counts of possessing and producing child sexual abuse materials against the 48-year-old. You can find the very latest on this story on our website, aptnnews.ca. One of the most prestigious honors in the literary world announced its nominees today, and a number of Indigenous authors made the list, including a member of Welcome back. Time now for a look at our photo of the day. And those living in Manitoba have certainly been treated to some spectacular evening views of the Northern Lights. If you saw some amazing views in the sky, you can send us a photo to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 15 in Charlottetown, showers, and 15 in Halifax. 10 in Kuujjuaq, rain in Nain, and a high of 7. 15 with rain in Montreal, showers, and 6 in Val-d'Or. Cloudy and 13 in Sault Ste. Marie, 13 in God's Lake, 15 in Norway House. Sunny and 22 in Winnipeg, 21 under the sun in Dauphin. 24 in Regina, 21 in Saskatoon, 15 in Meadow Lake and La Ronge. Over in northern Alberta, 11 in High Level, 12 in Thien and Vancouver, 20 with rain in Kamloops, 10 in Prince George, showers and 7 in Dease Lake, 2 with snow in Old Crow, snow and 5 in Whitehorse, 9 with showers in Yellowknife, cloudy, and 4 in Norman Wells, 0 with snow in Sax Harbor, flurries and Resolute, 2 in Arctic Bay. Eight Indigenous authors out of 35 total authors have been shortlisted as finalists for the 2024 Governor General's Literary Award. The award is one of the most prestigious literary honors in Canada. In the fiction category, Niska Cree memoir made the top 5. Saulteaux Cree Métis author Brandy Bird earned a spot in the poetry category, and Métis playwright Kaylee Crow in the drama category. Negon Sinclair's Winnipeg and Helen Knott's Becoming a Matriarch were shortlisted in the non-fiction category. Métis Nation Ontario member Sherry Demeline and Cree author Christy Jackson were nominated in the Young People's Literature Text category. Honor now, and in a little over a month, the winner of the annual Sobey Art Award will be announced. Our reporter Sav Jones gives us a look at the Indigenous finalists vying for the $100,000 prize.
This year, 4 of the 6 visual artists shortlisted for the prestigious Sobey Art Award are Indigenous. One artist from each of Canada's 6 regions is chosen for the shortlist to win the $100,000 prize. Representing the Pacific region is Judy Chartrand, Rain Vermette. Quebec region's Nico Williams is an Anishinaabe who makes sculptures using beadwork. And it's the first year for the Circumpolar region category encompassing northern Canada. It's represented by Takralik Partridge, an Inuk spoken word poet and visual artist originally from Kuujjuaq, Nunavik in northern Quebec. She says she's shocked and honored to be the first finalist for the Circumpolar region.
I'm just so honored, just kicking. And I'm just blown away that I get to be part of it with all these other amazing artists.
The winner will be announced November 9th. Sav Jones, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The other 2 non-Indigenous visual artists shortlisted for the award are Ontario Region's June Clark, who works in photography and sculpture. Luck to all the finalists in all of these prestigious awards. Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks for singer-songwriter and lawyer Desiree Dorian. Dorian, who's a member of Opaskwayak Cree Nation, just released her 7th album. But the 3-time Manitoba Country Music Award winner and the 3-time Manitoba Country Music Award winner has also just received another nomination for Female Artist of the Year. But on tonight's all-new episode of Face to Face,
it's actually abysmal. There is almost zero representation in mainstream media when it comes to Indigenous women. There was a study that was just released by Dr. Jada Watson, who's a musicologist with the University of Ottawa. It's called Share the Air, and it confirms that virtually almost 0% of voices on the air at country radio are Indigenous women. And so, the little sliver of mainstream success.
And you can catch that entire interview and a performance from Desiree in less than 2 minutes time, as we are all out of time for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. You can always stay up to date with the very latest, though, by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuich, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.